Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is a regular scheduled board meeting. Today is February 10th, 2025. I am calling this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. We have a confirmation for a quorum.
We do.
We do. Okay, at this time, I would ask for the board and for everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance to our flag and to the Texas flag. I would ask everyone to please recognize a moment of silence. Thank you. Next item is a workshop or public hearings. We have no workshop at public hearings. We have no activity in that area. Any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments. I'll move to letter E, consent agenda items. We have 4 items. Marilyn, we're going to be pulling that.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair. I believe you, item number 1, the agendas were going to be pulled from consent.
Okay.
Clarification, meeting minutes for November 14, December 9, and December 10.
All right, so those items are pulled. Now, if I entertain a motion to approve the rest of the items, well, I ask for a motion at this time.
Motion to approve the remaining consent items, number 2, 3, and 4.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Martinez. Do I have a
I'll second that.
Dr. Holman seconds that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? This motion passes. Thank you. Ms. Gilbert will now move for items for individual consideration. We'll start with your general manager report.
Thank you. On item 1A, we have F1A. We have the board calendar. In your packet, you have the February, March, and April 2025 calendar. On there, you have the various monthly scheduled meetings for SFWA, PubCap, and the PEB board meetings. If you have any conflicts or any questions, please let me know. Also, other events that are going on, we have the various different committee meetings that we have. I know some of you were scheduling, policy meetings or compensation committee meetings or other programs and facilities. Let us know and we'll include it on the calendar. I know those are floating. The only one that currently is set is the finance. And some of you have requested travel for the APPA legislative rally in Washington, D.C. Dr. Zamora, thank you so much for participating at the Policymakers Council and as a representative for the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. And any of you who are interested in attending or traveling in any of those, please confer with the board chair as per policy. He's the one who does any of the board, travel approval. Some of you have already told us, and we've included on the agenda, and if it's outside of a cycle, the chair approves your travel. Any questions on board calendar?
Well, this is a good time for any of the board members who may have interest in traveling to, this is the D.C. travel, Maryland?
Yes, and the
Which
DC travel is on February 24th through 26th.
February 21?
24.
February 24th through the 26th. Okay, this is a good time for people to look at the calendars and then to have administration and support staff work on the preparations. Okay.
Yeah, I'm planning to attend.
All right.
Yep.
With
Okay.
Mr. Martinez is planning to attend. Any other board members at this point? Are they tentative? Dr. Holman?
I'm good with travel.
Okay. Mr. Varela? Mr. Nahida?
No.
Okay, so we have Mr. Martinez. I plan on attending. Dr. Zamora?
Yes.
Dr. Zamora plans on attending. The mayor, Mr. Cowan?
I can't make it.
Okay.
All right. If any other travel comes up in between that you're aware of, please let us know, and we'll confer with the board chair. We are closed on February the 17th for President's Day, so note that our offices or administration is closed. Of course, being a 24/7 operation, business as usual, we have skeleton crews and various different offices open to provide services to the community. We also have March 31st, Cesar Chavez Day, is also a holiday for BPUB. On industry, the next item we have on the general manager's report is industry and PUB updates. Several of the staff reports will be providing the various different things. I did send you an email on the various items that we're working through, press releases, information that has been provided to us by the National Weather Services on drought, various different funding opportunities and other items. If you have any other questions on that, I'm not going to take that much detail to go through that email, but there were several links and information. Please let myself know, and myself or one of our executive team members will get back to you. Any questions or other things for industry updates?
If no questions, no comments, we'll move on to the next item. The next item is we have no items being pulled out of consent for discussion. Number 3, staff reports and presentations to the board.
Mr. Chair, it was just item 1 that was pulled from consent.
Okay.
But just for clarification, there are some revisions that are needed to the meeting minutes for those meetings, so we're just asking that it be tabled for consideration approval to the next board meeting.
Okay, the record will reflect that we will address those at the next board meeting.
Correct. Table the approval of the minutes for,
I move to table the minutes until next meeting.
Okay,
I second.
we have a motion by Mr. Martinez, second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, this item is tabled. All those against? All right, we'll move on. Staff reports and presentations to the board. Mike, we have a financial report.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So my name is Mike Perez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting the financial performance report as of December 31st, 2024. So here we have the executive summary that focuses on 7 categories. Each one has its own gauge meter, red representing poor, yellow average, and green good. So starting off with the flow of funds, year to date, we have generated $270,424 to replenish the improvement fund. Debt service coverage is at 2.19 times, well above the 1.25 times minimum requirement, so we're doing well. The fuel purchase and energy charge is set at 0.05019, and it's been kept stable at that rate for the past 6 months, all the way through this month, February. It has generated an over-recovery of $19.29 million as of December 31st. And this will be used to offset some future market uncertainty. So, on the COB cash transfer, it came in a little bit lower than budget due to the decrease in adjusted gross revenues, but the difference is not significant, so we're still doing well there. Personnel and non-personnel expenses came in lower than budgeted, primarily due to some timing issues. They came in $1.6 million below budget. BPUB's average electric bill is lower than both the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kWh residential user. So the average electric bill for that 1,000 kWh residential user is at $111.26. On the CIP, this month we did update the gauge meter to average based on some new metrics. The CIP year-to-date expenditures actuals were at $6.8 million, and the outstanding encumbrances totaled $31.1 million, which represents a combined 49.9% of the fiscal year 2025 approved plan. The CIP progress year-to-date will be provided under a separate presentation, so more on that. All key financial metrics are currently in compliance. So here we've got the condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. We are comparing the year-to-date actuals to prior year's same period. Starting off with operating revenues, $54,808,000. Those represent an $8.8 million increase from last year. We did see some minor changes in base and fuel revenues. But the major item that triggered the change was the $9,492,464 of rate stabilization funds that we used to pay down customers' production costs this past November and December as approved by the board. And so that's why the majority of the difference, it was a reduction in prior year's revenue. Moving on, we've got year-to-date operating expenses of $47,612,000. Those came in, we did see an increase of $1.9 million from prior year, and the majority of that increase was in contractual and other services. We arrive at operating income at $7,195,000. Backing out the other net non-operating expenses of $4,579,000, and we end up with income before capital contributions of $2,615,000. Adding in capital contributions of $2,739,000, and we end up with an increase in net position year-to-date of $5,355,000. Adding this to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, we end up with a net position year-to-date in December of $480,491,000. Here we've got the condensed statement or summary of revenues and expenses on the flow of funds. This is in compliance and accordance with the bond ordinance. We are comparing year-to-date actuals with the year-to-date budget. Year-to-date actual operating revenues came in at $53,095,000, which were about $10.2 million under budget. This item includes both base and fuel revenues, along with off-system energy sales. Base revenues were under budget by $2.9 million. Fuel was under budget by $8.6 million. And the off-system sales were actually over budget by $1.4 million. Other revenues year-to-date were $5,037,000. They were $762,000 below budget, and that is primarily a decrease in some auxiliary services that were generated in the ERCOT market. So we arrive at gross revenues of $58,133,000. We back out the fuel and the SRWA contribution of $18,099,000 and end up with adjusted gross revenues of $40,033,000. This is the basis for the city's 10% transfer calculation, so the city is entitled to $4,003,000 as of December. Once we back out the O&M, non-operating and debt service expenditures of $31,393,000, we end up with the balance available after requirements of $8,640,000. Now, once we back out the total cash utility benefit to the city of Brownsville, representing $4,003,000, we end up with the balance available for transfers out of $4,636,726. So we did transfer $4,366,306 into the 302 into the CIP and some of the other reserve accounts, leaving a balance here to replenish the improvement fund of $270,000. I do bring your attention to that line item there and transfers out. You can see that we're short $2,183,000 from budget, and there's two reasons for that. Number one was that we ended up recording 3 payrolls for the month of December, and that happens twice a year, right? And so that alone was in excess of $2 million. That's $2 million that was not available to transfer out to those other line items. The second reason is that not every month is linear, right? Our revenues and expenses that we generate are not the same every single month. But when we do the comparison to budget is pretty much linear. We're taking the annual amount divided by 12, and in this case, times 3 for the first quarter. And so by doing that, revenues here are a little bit overstated, considering the fact that most of our revenues are generated in the summer. And so I just wanted to bring this to your attention and let you know that there's nothing to worry about here. We will be making up that deficit here in the upcoming months as we generate the revenues. Our debt service coverage ratio is healthy at 2.19 times. Here we've got a budget to actual comparison for our O&M expenses for the current year and 5 previous years. Year to date, we see that our O&M expenses for personnel were about $180,000 below budget. And here again, we did end up catching up to budget basically because we ended up recording 3 payrolls for the month of December. Here's the 5-year analysis, budget to actual analysis for the O&M non-personnel expenses. This one's came in at about $1.46 million below budget, and really the big reason here is just the timing of the expenditures. Here we have the City of Brownsville transfer summary. The overall budget or actuals to budget were about $400,000 below and about $190,000 below prior year's level. But if you look at the actual cash transfers, actuals were at $2.8 million compared to $2.83 budgeted. It's about $30,000 below. And this is to the benefit really of the city. Their COB usage was significantly below their budgeted by about $400 and some thousand. Here we've got the average electric bill and fuel purchase energy charge flow chart. And so here we do see that I'm sorry. We see that the average electric utility bill for BPUB is $111.26, significantly below the IOUs and the MOUs that we compare ourselves to. We've generated an over-recovery 19.29 million as of December, and our rate remains constant at 0.5019 cents per kW. Here we've got the capital improvement plan. And I'm really just going to skip over this. Like I mentioned earlier, there will be a separate presentation by our staff. We did end up adding 2 additional charts in here that show more information about the CIP, and these are actual charts that are going to be covered as well by your other staff. And so here's the other second chart that we will continue to update that shows a lot more information and then shows a better progress for the CIP. Moving on, here we've got our key financial metrics. Our debt service coverage ratio, as mentioned earlier, is actually at 2.19 times through December, well above the 1.25 times requirement. Debt outstanding was at $254.5 million with an annual debt service of $28.5 million. Our debt to capitalization ratio is at 40%, which is in line with the utility medium. Our days cash on hand are at 435 days compared to the industry standard of 180 days, so we're doing great. Bond ratings, Moody's has us as an A2, Fitch and S&P as an A-, and we did meet all of our reserves. They've all been fully funded.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's the best bond rating that BPUB has had historically?
I believe it was an A+.
A plus is the best.
A+, for us. It's not the
No,
best.
right.
There's a AAA would be the best, and
Okay.
we're considered moderate on the bond ratings. Continuing on here, on the last slide, we have the customer service metrics. We do see that the current and past due within 30 days represent about 97.1% of the total receivables, so that's good. The utility assistance year to date was $568,732, and our average customer receivables collection period is hovering around 20 days. There's a lot of other information that's attached or included in your packets for your review, but at this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, any comments or questions from the board on this presentation from Mr. Pettis?
I would still like to see the water comparisons.
I thought we did
The
break
rates?
that down at the last meeting? The comparison with,
The same that we see for
I
electric.
apologize. I overlooked that, and so we'll bring it back. We'll bring it to next month's board meeting. So
I mean, it's okay if
we-
it has to go through a committee first or something, but as
We'll
long as
take it
we're
to the
moving
finance
on
committee
that.
Okay.
in March.
the water comparison for March.
Thank you.
And our previous consultant that did our water wastewater rate study provided an analysis or a comparison to all the other cities in the valley,
Okay.
and compared us to the Texas average. And so it's just a
Okay,
matter
so
of getting that
So you have that
updated.
information already?
So we have that information. It's probably outdated a year or 2 years, so we'll need to update it, but.
Okay.
we've-
If you have it for, even if it's 2 years old, can you send it to me by email?
Sure, yes, we can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you on that report, Mike, on the financial report. Next one is the quarterly report on the GM, CEO procurement authorizations.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
So I'll be presenting this item as well.
Okay.
There we go. We're on the page. So this is a housekeeping item where on a quarterly basis, we report to the board the various procurements that were approved by our GM and CEO within her authority limits that were granted by the board. And so that authorization limit is set as, it's up to $200,000 per procurement. So on this list, we do show a total of 21 procurements that were approved by our GM and CEO, totaling $1,409,466.06 for the quarter ending, of course, December 31st, 2024. Each of the procurement types that apply here representing competitive bids, state contract, existing contract, sole source, and emergencies. Total of 21 items. Ranging from the lowest was at $51,529.38 for the landfill disposal fees, and the high at the $193,758.40 for the electric meter inventory for residential and commercial customers. Any questions?
Can you elaborate a little bit on what sole source means?
Sole source being that the vendor has the proprietary rights to that particular commodity, then they're the only ones able to provide that commodity, and so the particular commodity and brand.
So like, I'm just wondering, so the annual Motorola radio license subscription, RGV Communications Group is the only way that you can get that
The
license
Motorola,
subscription?
Motorola radios, correct. That's a contract that we have with the city of Brownsville. We're partners with them and the police department for emergency services. During a hurricane, we're able to communicate with PD and everybody in the valley through those particular radios. And so the city took the effort to do the procurement on this particular. They're the ones selected Motorola, and so we're just our general manager and CEO is just approving our share of that contract.
I see.
And we normally, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, we probably do not engage in too many sole source activities when you all go out for bids, or
Correct.
it should be very seldom.
It's just, yeah, it's certain commodities.
All right,
Any
anything
other
else?
questions?
I'm good.
Okay, that was the
Thank you.
quarterly report, the update on procurement authorizations. Mr. Martinez, anyone else, any comments?
No comments, just thank you.
Okay, next, we're gonna hear from Miriam Camacho, Brownsville Public Utility Board Quarterly Investment Report for quarter ended December 31st, 2024, pursuant to Chapter 2256.023 of the Public Funds Investment Act. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. My name is Miriam Camacho. I'm the Treasury and Accounting Manager for the Accounting and Treasury Department. I'll be presenting the quarterly investment report for quarter ended December 31st, 2024. This report is prepared for the Brownsville PUB in accordance with Chapter 2256 of the Public Funds Investment Act. The investment portfolio complied with the Public Funds Investment Act and with the BPUB approved investment policy. I'll be going over columns A, C, E, and F. Starting with the asset class, column A, bank deposits in Wells Fargo had a market value of $15,682,851.80, with a percentage of portfolio of 6.67 and a yield to maturity of 3.41. Continuing with certificates of deposits, with a market value of $5,222,000, with a percentage portfolio of 2.22, and a yield to maturity of 5.27. Our investment pools, with a market value of $166,782,851 with 4 cents, a percentage of portfolio of 70.91%, and a yield to maturity of 4.58. And the U.S. Treasury notes and bills, with a market value of $47,599,520, with a percentage of portfolio of 20.21%, and a yield to maturity of 4.94. With a total, I'm going to go over the column F with the total yield to maturity for the quarter of 4.59. Continuing with the next page is the net yield comparison historical performance graph. This graph compares the BPUB's yield to maturity with the S&P pool index and the 91 T-bill. As of December 31st, 2024, PUB had a yield to maturity of 4.59, the S&P pool index of 4.49, and the 91 T-bill with the percentage of 4.40. The next page goes over the detailed distribution by asset class. Starting with column A, bank deposits, I'm going to go over the market value, which has $15,682,851.80, with the yield to maturity of 3.41, which range from 1.65 to 4.17. Continuing with the certificates of deposit, with a market value of $5,222,000 and a yield to maturity ranging from 5 to 5.45%. Investment pools, with a market value of $166,782,551.04, ranging from a yield to maturity from 4.46 through 5.35. Next page, we have the U.S. Treasury notes and bills, with a market value of $47,599,520, with the yield to maturity ranging from 4.47 to 5.16. This ends my presentation. The following pages is just details of the information I presented. Any questions?
Any questions on this item?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that was the investment report for the quarter. Now we'll move on to an update on grant activity presented by Ms. Suarez.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I am Miriam Suarez, Senior Grants Coordinator based out of the Finance Department. And I am here tonight to provide a grant update on, or an update on grant activity for BPUB and SRWA. I begin with a visual snapshot of fiscal year 2024, where there were just over $78.8 million in grant requests submitted on behalf of BPUB and SRWA. Additionally, award offers totaling just under $11.2 million were received for 3 BPUB-led projects, and they are pending the financial assistance agreement to move forward. Lastly, there are 4 active BPUB-led projects that received a little under $26.3 million in grant funding. Here we have an active and awarded grants list with a bit more detail. The first half of the table references the 4 BPUB-led projects with a total grant funding at just under $26.3 million, with a local cost share of $15.6 million. The local cost share percentage ranges between 0 and 73%, and total project costs are $41.9 million. I continue with the awarded and pending section, in which there are 3 BPUB-led projects that are pending the financial assistance agreement. In order for the projects to begin, Potential grant funding for these projects total $11.2 million, with a local cost share of $922,000. The local cost share percentage ranges between 0 and 65%, and total project costs are just under $12.1 million. Here we have a list of the submitted grant requests totaling just over $78.8 million. 5 applications were submitted on behalf of BPUB totaling $18.2 million. 3 applications were submitted on behalf of SRWA totaling $20.5 million. And additionally, there was a direct request through Congressman Gonzalez's office for $40 million to be included in the Water Resources Development Act, which authorizes projects to be funded through a separate appropriations bill. We have received response letters with an award offer for 3 projects on this list, and they are for the SRWA Wellfield and Facility Improvements Project. The grant request was for $10.6 million, and a partial award offer of $5 million was received. The next steps include going through the post-award process with the Bureau of Reclamation to finalize the project scope and budget, and then enter into a financial assistance agreement. The second application we received an award offer for is the Resaca de la Guerra Resilience and Restoration Project. The grant request was for $3 million, and a full funding offer was received. The next steps also include going through the post-award process and entering into a financial agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation. The third project is the Central Estates and Saldivar Praxedis Wastewater Improvements Project. This project is a partnership with Cameron County, who is the lead applicant, as only non-entitlement counties qualify for Texas CDBG funds. The grant request was for $1 million, and a full funding offer was received. An interlocal agreement with the county has been signed, and next steps include the completion of the environmental review and the contractor selection process. Lastly, this is a list of available funding opportunities at the federal, state, and local level. Whenever a funding notice is released or we find it, the grant is reviewed to see whether it aligns with BPUB and SRWA's mission and priorities, and/or if it is a good match for a project that is included in the capital improvement plan. We are currently further reviewing grant opportunities that focus on water conservation, water wastewater infrastructure, energy backup, disaster recovery, and energy innovation. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions on the grant activity update for any of the board members? Any comments?
Yes, I have a question about the Solar for All program.
Sure.
What is the plan, like, once it gets funded? My understanding was that there would be some revisions to what was submitted.
Currently, the department is working with the Texas Solar for All team. I'm not sure if there's going to be any revisions to the project scope, but
If there's somebody else here that could answer that would be appreciated.
So right now, the Solar for All is, for those of you who are not familiar, is done through the Harris County. And Harris County is the one who is the main applicant. So we are a sub-applicant of Harris County. Various different municipalities also applied through that, and there is like Austin Energy and things of that nature. From there, the project scope gave us leeway on how to define it. So what you're referring to, Dr. Zamora, happens to be with the applicability if we're going to do rooftop solar or other type of community benefits program. This is one of the ones that we are working through OMB to understand if the funding is going to come through. I have seen some other articles and information. So please bear with us on this one, because this is one that was not cleared. The other ones were cleared and are moving forward through the process. and we'll get back to you once we receive further guidance from the main administrator of this project, in addition to the federal government. And Mark, I know you worked very closely with Harris County before. If you want to elaborate a little bit more about the projects, there's different ways. It has a lot of flexibility, in other words.
So, from what I recall from the grant, this is for residential customers, and it is a carve-out for low-income customers. And so the projects have to serve those communities, and when we submit projects to them, that's when they will get approved, once funds are released.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Ms. Suarez?
No, thank you,
Yeah,
Ms. Suarez.
just one question on the cybersecurity. What is that for?
Sure, let me get. Is this a potential grant opportunity? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it was on the first section, the PUB led.
Yes.
On this one, it is the American Public Power Association, and we applied
Yes.
with the Director of Technology, who is, Eddie is here. He might be able to elaborate a little bit further on this grant, on the cybersecurity grant.
Good evening. Yeah, we're partnering with APPA. They're helping fund a cybersecurity effort to beef up our SCADA cybersecurity.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. Good. Thank you, that was it.
Okay, we'll move on from the grants activity update to year-to-date capital improvement plan activity as of December 31st, 2024. George?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Jorge Santillan, Finance Manager, and I will go over the CIP summary, financial summary as of December 31st, 2024, on this slide, and then Mr. David Ramirez, he'll go over the following slide with the projections through the end of the fiscal year. Beginning on the left side, the dashboard on top, the total FY 2025 CIP budget, $76.1 million. Actuals through December 31st, $6.8 million, or 9% of the total budget. Total committed or encumbrances, $31.1 million, or 40.9% of the budget. This leaves a budget balance of $38.2 million, or 50.1% of the budget. Continuing on the middle section, on the actuals and committed by project type as a percentage of budget. For the electrical, 47% of the budget has been spent and committed. For water, 40%, wastewater, 63%, and for general and administration, 40% of the budget has been spent and committed. Moving on to on the right side of the year-to-date actuals and committed by category. In blue, we show the actuals totaling $6.8 million. In red, we show the committed of $31.1 million. And looking at the top three categories, the first one, under construction, actuals, $1.2 million, committed, $17.1 million, grant funded, $1.7 million actuals, committed, $7 million. And then the customer connections, $2.5 million actuals, and $3 million committed. If there's no questions, I will turn it over to Mr. Ramirez.
Okay, any comments or questions on
Yes.
the report provided to us by Mr. Santillan? All right, if no comments or questions,
All right, good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is David Ramirez. The following slide shows a spending plan for the current CIP. It shows amounts of cash that project managers expect to spend on a month-to-month basis based on current project schedules and milestones, which is presented here by the black bars there on this graph. From this graph, project managers have been, we can tell that project managers have been spending cash ahead of schedule year-to-date through the month of December. Many project milestones still need to come together in the coming months in order to sustain and increase the rate of capital project delivery as planned. We'll continue to monitor and report on the CIP delivery on a regular basis as needed. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board, or any comments on these items that were presented by Mr. Santillan, Mr. Ramirez?
I appreciate this graph in particular, where you're showing us what is planned. I think that's very useful, and whenever we ask for an update, having something like this where we are able to see what to expect, I think is very useful, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Sir.
just a quick, just to make sure I understand, right? So the actuals from the first slide is the actuals, is the red line. So the 6,812,078 is the same 6.8 million that are actual spend?
Correct. The
on
red
first
line represents actual money spent year-to-date through the month of December on that graph, and we'll follow it through as the months progress. The blue line is, comes out of information from recurring meetings with project managers as to what they expect to spend on a monthly basis.
So do you expect that blue line to change on a monthly basis?
We intend to keep it because that's the original plan from the original plan when the fiscal year began, and then we'll see how the line performs, the red line performs in relation to the blue line. We'll have to explain any variations as we go along.
And the committed, from the previous slide, we don't have a line for that, but that would just be a portion of the total 66 million that are planned to be spent by the end of the year?
Correct. The committed, it's one part of it. It's not reflected on this actual chart. Where on this particular chart, we're focusing more on actual planned monies per month.
So the committed are for the actual projects that are currently in progress?
Correct.
Yep. Cool, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, those represent procurements that have already taken place, and so we're just moving the project along. There's an open PO already out there for that balance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis, and of course, Mr. Santillan and Mr. Ramirez for that presentation. Let's move on to drought update. Mr. Flores?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jaime Flores. I'm the Water Resources Administrator, and I'll be giving you the drought update. Today, or as of February 1st, 2025, the U.S. combined ownership at Amistad and Falcon reservoirs is 21.3%. That leaves us still in stage 2 of our water conservation plan guidelines. As you can see, on January 11th, we have 20.9%. The next week, January 18th, it was 21.1%. And January 25th, 21.2%. So very slight incremental changes, but at least it's going in the right direction. For the National Weather Service, February to April 2025 outlook for the Lower Rio Grande Valley and Deep South Texas region. Through April 2025 is expected to average out warmer and drier than normal. There's still a need to monitor the potential for heavy rainfall, flooding events during this time period, despite a drier than normal outlook. Given the right setup, showers and storms could result in heavy rainfall and flooding, favoring late March and April if they do occur. Drought dryness conditions will likely continue to expand through the rest of the winter and early spring season. And confidence remains high that total combined storage will remain at or near record lows through March, which means continued limits on agricultural and municipal water use. We're going to move on to our water conservation plan guidelines. So these are all kicked in. Stage 1 is once we hit 51% of the reservoir levels, that kicks in. And when we hit 25%, stage 2 restrictions kick in, so we're right in the center of that at 21. That increases if we get to 15%, we actually get into stage 3. And in emergency rationing, that can happen anytime if there is an emergency, whether it's contamination to the water source or pipeline breaks or some other event of that nature. If you'd like me to continue the stage 2 water restrictions, for lawn irrigation is allowed from 11 p.m. through 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. through 11 a.m. These times have been adjusted to for for daylight savings time. Again, these are for 2 days out of the week. The same applies for water restrictions for residential car washing 11 p.m. through 9 a.m., and 6 p.m. through 11 a.m., again for 2 days out of the week. Additional restrictions: non-essential watering is prohibited, such as washing buildings or sidewalks, using water for dust control, or allowing water to run off into streets. And restaurants are prohibited from serving water to non-employees except when requested by the non-employee. Stage 3, we're not here yet, but the restrictions are the same as Stage 2, except that there's only 1 day of watering, for residential car washing, only once a week versus twice a week. Same for lawn irrigation, it's allowed only once a week. The times are the same versus twice a week. Excuse me. Additional restrictions: adding water to pools except to maintain structural integrity is prohibited. Operation of any outdoor ornamental fountain, pond for aesthetic or scenic purposes is prohibited except for support of aquatic life or where fountain ponds recirculate water. And the use of water from scenic and recreational ponds and lakes or estacas and pumping water into them is prohibited except when necessary to support aquatic life. If we do reach the Stage 3, there are surcharges that can be applied. For residential, once they reach the allocation of 10,000 gallons per month, they'll be charged a 1.5 surcharge. For non-residential, once they meet 80,000 or 80% of the monthly usage for the 12-month period ending prior to the date of the implementation of Stage 12, they'll receive a 1.25 surcharge. Irrigation, last residential rate block as 1.5 times the current rate. Our drought communications update will be given by Alexa Perez. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions on this presentation by Mr. Flores on the drought update? Comments?
Yes.
Dr.
Thank you for the presentation. So this drought messaging is what you've done just in January, is that right?
She'll handle that.
That concludes the first part of the presentation, and the next part of the presentation, drought messaging, is by Alexa, so she's going to give her presentation.
Okay, then I have another question before that.
Okay.
And we're working on updating the drought plan, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. The changes, they're being updated as we speak. They should be estimated to be done within 60 days. Carver Engineering is handling those updates in conjunction with
Sorry,
Mark.
I can't hear.
Oh, excuse me. The water plan, the water conservation plan guidelines are being updated. They're estimated to be completed within 60 days by Garver Engineering, and they're working in conjunction with Mark Dabrowski and the rest of the team on updating those guidelines.
And don't they have to be approved by the state?
So we're going to have a presentation for you for the Facilities and Program Committee on the 19th on a lot of the data we're doing, the revisions we're looking at to the Water Conservation Drought Contingency Plan. Once those have been approved by the board, we will update our plan that's on file with the TCEQ and the Texas Water Development Board and file those with the board at that time. And then that will trigger a change with the ordinance with the city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on this topic or from Mr. Flores? Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Flores.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Alexa Perez, and I'm the Division Manager for Communications, Public Relations, and Digital Platforms. So I'm just going to explain you a little bit about the drought messaging for the month of January. I know that in the past board meeting, we provided the entire report for the entire year of 2024. Now, let me explain you a little bit. So during the website, we share a lot of the drought resources, and we had around 300 visitors. On social media, we had 5 drought-related content that it was unique, and we had at least 7,011 views. So that means that at least 7,011 people were looking at this post. Now, how many people actually click and engage with the post? We had 6,970, meaning that it's a difference of 41 people only, which when it comes about social media, it is a win because we normally lose between 20 to 30% of the audience. But in this case, by losing only 41 people on clicking on them, it's basically a win. And at least we had 138 interactions. This means that was people that was commenting, asking for questions, or they were just clicking on liking or loving the post. Now we currently have 2 billboards, but located in, no, my apologies. We have 6 different type of graphics, which means we have 6 billboards. However, they are located in 2 different locations. One is right here in Boca Chica, and another one in Rubalcaba Torres. Those 2 billboards, well, those 6 different designs, they had more than 27,000 monthly appearances. So that doesn't mean that only 27,000 cars or people saw this billboard. That means that it appeared at least 27 times. So if we had during that time in the light 100 people waiting in the traffic, then that we will multiply this number for these 100 people waiting in the traffic. Now, this is some numbers, of course, that we'll need to get from Lamar or from a traffic department to see how many people were waiting every single day in the light, right? Now, for the next one, we have BPUB TV, which is all of the TVs that we have in our lobbies. We had this month, we have a monthly traffic of 4,000 or 5,000 people, 5,542. Then community presentations, we did 1 community presentation that is drought related. And now let me tell you, because after this I have a presentation when it comes about our brand and our communications. We're working already in our new strategy. We're revamping the entire content because we don't want only for people to be watching our content, but we want for people to be interacting, to be sharing, and to be proud of all of the things that we're doing. So now that we brought a content creator into our team, we're working in putting more videos, putting more short content, because we know we love scrolling on TikTok, on Facebook, and Instagram. So we're gonna start putting more content that is like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds long, so people can actually stay there and watch it. And not only learn about drought, but also start learning about what we do at BPUB, what it takes to take the electricity to their houses, what it takes, the entire process of wastewater, and what it takes for them to have clean water at their houses. So that's why I added at the end the new strategy that we're doing, and hopefully by the next, believe me, the staff is already working on that. We're working really, really hard in all that. And hopefully by the next board meeting, I can bring you at least an example of what we're trying to launch. I don't know if you have any questions.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Sounds very good. We appreciate the new effort that you're applying for this area. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bettis. We'll move on to the next item, consideration approval of the annual comprehensive financial report for the period ending September 30, 2024.
We actually skipped one item. We have the BPUB brand refresh project that Alexa will be presenting right now,
I'm
if that's
sorry.
okay with you.
Yes, so as I mentioned, I've been a division manager for communications, public relations, and digital platforms for the past 4 months. So I'm still kind of new at the company, but at the same time trying to move forward all of the items that we have here. So one of the things that we noticed, especially even before I started working here, some of the staff concerns that we had at the beginning is that we do a lot, but unfortunately, even when we sponsor events, or we do our T-shirt, or we do flyers or something like that, a lot of the times our logo gets lost in everything because it's not very visible, and the current logo that we have fails on scalability. So this BPUB brand refresh projects, it's all about creating a logo that is visible and that is scalable, and a logo that you can use in everything that is digital and at the same time that is print. So let me give you three reasons for which we're refreshing our brand. One, as I mentioned, is the visibility issue. If you see our logo right here in the polo, normally, I mean, you can only see the emblem. However, you don't see the word Brownsville. Now, when it comes about comparing our logo with other entities, you see how this one gets lost. So if we sponsor events, because we sponsor a lot of events, it normally gets lost. And a lot of the community members, when we get those questions that they were like, oh, I didn't know you were sponsoring this event. And we were like, yeah, my logo is right there, but they don't see it, right? So we needed a logo that stands out in both print and digital. The second is clarity and modernization. As I mentioned right now, the scalability is very important when it comes about, for example, small items like lanyards. We miss the word Brownsville. You only see public utilities board, and only in big items, kind of like a mug or something, that's where we actually can see it. So we want to make sure that even if our logo is going to be on a small item, anyone can see what is the brand. And the third one is familiarity and symmetry. Not sure who created the logo in the past, and you probably haven't paid attention to this, but we as creatives, we love all these details, and when we put this logo on Photoshop and on AI, and we started like checking everything, we noticed it was not symmetrical. So the distance is even different. Some of the dogs, if you see, are bigger than other ones, and the lengths of the weights are not symmetric, right? So let me present you. This is our improved logo and emblem. Now, let me explain you what exactly we're doing here. This is not about creating a new brand, but it's about refreshing the brand and promoting what we actually do and giving to the community something that they have always wanted from us. Call us BPUB, call us PUB. And as of now, we don't give them anything, right? So we're providing this new variation, but at the same time keeping the one that is official. Now let me go to the next slide. So let me show you the main two things that we're changing. That we're adding basically. The first one, if you see, this is the emblem. We're keeping the emblem because we know everyone recognizes the emblem for BPUB. The second one, the company name, look, we're changing just for a font that is a little bit more modern, and that if we put it in a t-shirt or we print it or we put it in digital documents, it's still gonna stand out. But at the same time, we're providing now this variation. For for example, for all of those sponsorship events, for all of those posters that has our logo, now this logo can actually stand out. And the fourth, as creative freaks, we just wanted to have symmetry in everything. So we follow the rule called the golden ratio, and now all of the circles are exactly the same and exactly the same color. Now you might ask, well, Alexa, why are you doing all of this? Why can't you just change the logo, or why keeping exactly the same if you're using just a different font? Well, let me explain you. One of the things that we're doing is brand refresh instead of rebranding. Brand refresh means keeping exactly the same identity of your brand, but just make it look a little bit more modern. On the contrary, a rebranding means changing everything. So what does this mean? This means that if we were to choose to go with a rebranding, by tomorrow we will need to drop off all of our polo shirts, all of our dress shirts, all of our merchandise, including the logo that you have right there in the back, and start from the bottom. That will cost millions, plus there's no point. Why? Because keeping exactly the key elements, such as the emblem, is gonna help us to have an easier market adoption. Because the market, in this case, our customers and our community, they already understand the emblem. They already are familiar with the emblem. So by doing this, just improving in little steps, you're making some tweaks so it's easier for everyone to use it, we can have a faster transition. And we can do, believe it or not, a zero-cost transition. Now, the project is divided approximately in around 4 phases. The first one, which is the one that we're starting right now in February, costs $0 because it's about changing everything that is digital. If you go to our website right now, you will see that now we're starting using the new BPUB logo without the Times New Roman font, but with the sans serif. If you go to our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you will see that we're currently using the new logo as well. So this is everything that is digital doesn't cost us anything. The memos, business cards, it's about just to start changing all of the templates, including the email signatures. Now, for the phase 2 that we have for the printing material subject, this is the approach that we're currently implementing in order for us to have a zero-cost transition. This means that every single department, because this was already, of course, we already have some conversations with directors and with managers, every single department can use everything they have right now. But at the moment that they're gonna order new polos or new swag or new brochures, that's when we request them just to change the logo and place that. And that's it. However, if someone has right now mugs, polos, whatever, it's totally fine. They can use it. But at the moment that they're gonna order new, now it's when we're requiring the new logo. Now the third part, which is the company apparel. One of the main concerns, of course, of this is to make sure that our field workers have the uniform, and that the uniform complies with the safety standards. So we're aware that they replace the uniforms about every 6 months. So that means that by the month number 6, these employees need to, change upgrade their uniform or change the uniform. The only thing that is going to change is the logo, causing no extra cost to the budget. Now, when it comes about the vehicle reps, it's exactly the same thing. I'm already in communication with Fleet, with Mr. Jose Cuellar, and they replace the vehicles every couple of months because of the sun, because of the UV. It starts affecting them, and the logo starts kind of like looking like more white there. So once they're going to start replacing some of them, they will place the new ones with the new logo. And apparently, if I'm not mistaken, by this summer, they're expecting new vehicles, and all of them will be having the new vehicles. So this is a project that we don't want to have like in 6 months, but on the contrary, since we want just for a transition to be cost-effective, but also for a community to be involved and to be aware of the change that we're doing, we're planning to do probably around 12 to 18 months. Even if it takes us 2 years, that's totally fine. But at the end, we just want to make the changes without affecting the current budget of the organization and of the multiple departments. And that's it. I don't know if you have any questions.
Wow, Marilyn, that's, this is something really, really new, the refreshing of the brand. I like some of the wording, no additional cost will be incurred. You're phasing out the old brand and refreshing the new brand. It's good.
Yeah.
Any comments on this, Mayor?
I think it's important. How long have we had the current logo? Over 20 years, is it?
I
25
believe it's
years.
over 20, how many?
25 years. I was here
25
when the
years.
first rebranding in the year 2000 when it came on board. It was right after Senate Bill 7, which was the deregulation, and that's when the rebranding came onto this utility. And Mayor, I heard you, no additional cost, keep rates low. So everything we're doing is to follow your lead and direction and your leadership for this organization. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
It's really good. Thank you.
Any other question?
Dr. Holman, is he there? Any questions, Joseph?
Yeah. No, I got a sneak peek at the rebranding, and yeah, it was subtle. I mean, but I agree with all the points we're trying to accomplish with it. So I think this is great.
Thank you. And no worries, you'll be getting your new polo soon with a new logo. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate all the effort. I appreciate the attention to detail, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zamora. I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to, now we'll move on to consideration and approval of the annual comprehensive financial report ending September 30th, 2024.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So the firm of Burton, McCumber, and Longoria, LLP, completed their audit of BPUB's financial statements for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2024. In their opinion, the financial statements were presented fairly in all material aspects in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards, earning the BPUB an unmodified opinion. Here with us today is Jose Diaz, Audit Manager with Burton, McCumber, and Longoria, to provide the board with their communications to governance and their audit opinions and findings on BPUB's fiscal year 24 audit. This item was presented to the Finance Committee on February the 5th. So, Jose.
Good evening, Chair, Board. Once again, thank you for having us. So, like Mike said, my name's Jose Diaz, and I'm the audit manager for BML in charge of this engagement. So I'm just presenting the engagement team. It was Ben Peña, who's our partner, myself as the manager, and then we included our staff, which we included five staff in order to service the client at the time that we had agreed. So communications that we're required to give to governance. There was a new accounting policy that was adopted. So management got into hedging contracts that required the application of GASB 53. So the effect on it is recognizing deferred outflows and the derivative liability for the valuation in the statement of net position in the amount of $181,000. Sensitive estimates in your financial statements. There's estimates to record the unbilled revenue. estimated cost on capital contributions. Those are all the costs that are added to infrastructure for new developments that are made, so it's added into the financials. Estimated self-insurance claims, net pension, OPEB liabilities, related deferrals, depreciation on capital assets, and allowance for doubtful accounts. Difficulty encountered in performing the audit, there were none. Management was very helpful. Everything that we asked, all departments that we contact, they're helpful in providing info and having the audit move it forward and on a timely basis. There's no disagreements with management, and we have no reportable findings on the financial statements. Like Mike said, these are our audit opinions. Financial statements, we have no modifications, a clean opinion. The financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, respect the financial position of the Brownsville PUB in government auditing standards. So because it's a government, we are required to look at additional items as compared to a regular audit regarding compliance with contracts, regulations, grant agreements, in that sense. So again, with that, there's no reportable findings regarding to that part of the audit. And then this was added to show the difference between last year's report. Last year, the BPUB had a single audit, which was an additional audit on federal awards spent. For the current year, there wasn't enough expenditures that would trigger that audit. So in this audit, you wouldn't see that. So if you were comparing it with both years, it would be different, right? So there's no single audit report on compliance for the year ended September 30, 2024. And that is my presentation regarding the audit. Any questions on our process or?
Any comments or questions for the presenter on this item? Okay, nothing at this time. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the next item, which is consideration to appoint a depository bank. Mr. Bettis?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So I'll be presenting this item. So on November the 14th, 2024, the BPUB Purchasing Department received proposals for banking depository services. The proposals were advertised on October the 19th and 26th, emailed to 15 banking entities, and we had 6 banks that responded as follows. So we had Wells Fargo, Frost Bank, JP Morgan, Lone Star National Bank, Texas Regional Bank, and Texas National Bank. So the request for proposals listed specific criteria that the BPUB requires from the successful banking firm, including the capability of providing fraud prevention services such as ACH blocking, payee positive pay, and other fraud services to ensure the safety and security of the BPUB funds. The new service agreement will be for a 3-year period beginning June 1st of 2025 through May 31st of 2028 with 2 additional 1-year options. This presentation was also presented to the Finance Committee on February the 5th. So here we've got our objectives and priorities that we were looking at. We're looking at safety and security of funds and investments, the preservation of capital and protected financial resources. We wanted to ensure that we meet the requirements of the investment policy and meeting the requirements of the Texas Government Code and be capable of providing the services required at the least possible cost. These are the account activities that were provided in the RFP. As of September 2023, we included that we had 72,761 billed accounts for the entire system with an estimated operating net revenues of $223 million. We have a total of 28 checking accounts with a historical average collected balance of $3.1 million. As far as transactions go, our AP clearing or checks or disbursements that we issue on a monthly basis total about $17.1 million. We have direct debit. These are what we directly pull from the customers for payment of utility bills of about $3.9 million. Vault services, another $3.5 million. lockbox services, 1.3 million, and then, of course, payroll ACH direct deposits averaging around 2 million per month. Here, we wanted to emphasize the distinction between BPUB from other units of local government in relation to the depository services required to meet the cash management needs and daily operations. So the units of government that we're comparing ourselves to are BISD, Port of Brownsville, Cameron County, and the City of Brownsville. So in order to differentiate between the services that PUB requires or requests from the other governmental entities, we had staff prepare a synopsis for the highlighted contracts in the depository services required for depository services. So we ended up looking at the most recent RFPs for the other entities and compared that to our RFP. So starting out with the Brownsville Independent School District, we saw that the school district does not currently utilize lockbox services. The most commonly used services for them are with the Payee, Positive Pay, ACH, and wire services. As far as the Port of Brownsville, they did not list or listed them as optional but not required, where some of the services were lockbox services, remote desk deposit services, the merchant card processing services, vault services, over-the-counter debit blocks, and check cashing thresholds. The county did not list or needed any account verification services, no over-the-counter debit blocks, and no check cashing thresholds. The City of Brownsville, they did not list account verification services, vault services, over-the-counter debit blocks, and check cashing thresholds. So just some of the distinctions between some of the other entities and our operations. Some of the general requirements, we wanted to ensure that this bank was capable of providing the services required at a reasonable cost, that they met the requirements of Chapter 105 of the Texas Local Government Code, and that they met the requirements of our Public Funds Investment Act, and is willing to be attentive and responsive to Brownsville PUB's financial matters and technology needs, and of course demonstrate financial strength and stability. This is the criteria that we used in our ranking, a total of 8 different criteria. The ones that carried the most weight were the ability to perform and provide the required and requested service, the cost of services, and the earnings credit calculation. Those carried a weight of 5. And then those that carried a weight of 3 were the funds availability, financial strength and stability, overnight and the overnight investment option. Those that carried the least weight, but still included in the rating, were the completeness of the proposal and agreement to the points outlined in the RFP. We needed to ensure that they were following all the requested, or they provided information on all the requested services, and we also looked at their community presence. These are the required and requested bank depository services that were included in the RFP. I know there are a whole bunch of them, but I will focus on a few of those that are most important to BPUB. Starting off with vault services, this is the availability of a local vault, provides a streamlined and more secure method of cash deposits while improving efficiency by removing trips to the local branch. So rather than having our own staff taking the cash and checks, all the deposits that we collected for the day to the bank for deposit, we actually hire Armored Services to come in and pick up those funds and take it to a local vault. The local vault then provides the services of going through the entire deposit, deposited into our accounts, and then of course in submitting a report back to us that we can reconcile to. Second, we've got the automated clearinghouse services. These are electronic money transfer between banks. BPUB utilizes ACH services for its biweekly direct deposits, payroll disbursements, AP disbursements, collection of utility payments, ACH debits from customers and payroll taxes and other deductions. Some of the benefits include low cost, high secure, and conveniency for BPUB and our customers. The cutoff times here for the automatic or ACH services are very important. Next, bank wire services. These are important because they provide a secure and efficient way to send money, especially for large amounts and urgent payments. It's secure, convenient, and it usually processes on the same day. Lockbox services, another feature that we're looking at. This designed to expedite the collection of paper-based payments and provide timely payment information to update accounts receivable records. So the payments are remitted to a lockbox location, and in our case, in our current vendor, current bank, it's located in Dallas, and where the bank will then receive, open, and process payments on behalf of BPUB. We process approximately $1.3 million on a monthly basis through this lockbox service, and then they just provide a electronic file back to us that we then upload into our Cayenta, our billing system, to update the customer's receivable. Next, we have Positive Pay with Payee Review Services. So this is a banking feature that adds an extra layer of protection against check fraud by verifying not only the check number, the amount, or the date, but also the payee name on the check against the pre-approved list that we provide to the bank once we process those payments. So essentially ensuring that the money is only sent to the intended recipient and preventing fraudulent alterations to the payee name on the check. So this has been an invaluable service in the sense that when we distributed the Tenasca Equity Funds checks this past year, this limited the exposure to fraud and added that extra layer of security. As you all recall, a lot of customers were posting copies of the checks in social media. So everybody that had access to that media had access, or were able to identify our checking account number, our routing number, and the actual check in itself, right? So there were some fraudulent attempts at times where people would just update the payee name, or just put a new payee name on top of the name that was already there, presented that for cash payment at the bank. But because the bank had that payee Positive Pay with us, it didn't match the file that we had submitted, those got rejected. In the past, I would say maybe 2 years ago, we only had the Positive Pay feature, right? So they didn't check payee, they just checked for all the others. In that instance, had we not updated or upgraded to this new feature, those checks would have posted, those fraudulent checks would have posted to our account, we would have been out that money. So this is a great feature that we cannot do without. Direct debit services, those are customers' pre-authorized debits where we pull payments to their accounts for the utility payments. A lot of us, myself, I enrolled for this service. It's easy, very convenient. I ensure that the payment gets made. I'm never late on that payment, and I ensure that I don't get any late payment fees or that I get my services cut off. So that's an important service as well. And then, of course, fraud prevention services. We got the ACH debit block. This is the ability to select permanent and restrict ACH debits. Here again, when we distributed the Tenasca Equity Fund checks, because our customers or people out there knew what our bank account and routing numbers were, some initiated direct debits to our accounts. But because we had this feature in place, those again got rejected. So there's always attempts out there, and so it's very important that we have these features in place. No post checks. This service prevents unauthorized checks being presented for payment to be posted to the accounts. The last one that I will mention here would be the account ownership verification. This is another fraud service to verify account owner authentication through early warning participation. It helps ensure that the funds are sent to the current person or entity. So many times when people are setting up for ACH or whether they're transitioning from a paper check to now to an ACH, they submit a form to us so that we can then update their that feature in our system. And so by using this account verification service, we submit this or we go online and we submit this request in there, and we're able to then identify if the information they presented as far as the name on the account and the account number matches. And if it matches, then it's a reassurance that, okay, this is an actual account and it's verifiable. Now, if there's a mismatch, then we stop that, and then we take other measures to identify the request. So these are the RFP respondents that I covered through the initial introduction. At this point, completed my presentation. We did provide some additional information in your package, along with the rating that our committee members that are listed here conducted. All these members are here with us tonight as our subject matter experts, and we're all available here to answer any specific questions you might have.
Okay, we've listened to the presentation from Mike. Any comments or questions that you may have at this time? This particular item, I recall a couple of years ago it came up. I've always been a proponent and advocate for making sure that we work with local vendors, regional vendors, state vendors. I know do you have a recommendation, Mike?
My recommendation would be the highest ranked firm,
The
which
highest
is our
ranked.
current
right.
banking firm, but
I personally believe that there are at least two other local banks, regional banks, that can provide perhaps the same services or close to it. But this is an item that the board needs to consider, to talk about it. I don't know if y'all want to table it and go into executive, or y'all want to discuss it on here.
I have one quick question. How often is this updated?
every 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah,
okay.
these are normally 5-year contracts. In this case, with this particular contract, we brought it down to a 3-year contract with the option to renew for 2 additional years.
How long, Mike, how long y'all been with Wells Fargo?
Since 2000.
Since 2000?
For 25 years.
25 years. To me, that's it's an indication that a change is needed, but it's up to the board. Do we want to table this item and go into executive? Or?
I would recommend we talk about it in executive session if that's permissible.
Okay. Juan?
Yeah, technically, the only real matter we could discuss in executive would be any legal consultation regarding any legal issues regarding any of the submissions or the contract negotiations. Aside from that, it would need to be discussed, here in the open. Now, the only thing is that I don't know if these particular submissions were marked confidential. Sometimes some of the terms and stuff that are submitted are marked confidential and are proprietary, so we wouldn't want to discuss any particulars. But there's technically no basis to go discuss that in closed session either.
I think the ratings is what would be important to discuss. Is that confidential?
No, not
No, it's
necessarily.
public. But there are other items perhaps that are a little more technical that we can discuss in executive.
If, under legal consultation, if there's questions regarding legal issues regarding certain submissions or contract negotiation, yes, we could discuss those in closed.
All right, so
Under
what's
attorney
required? A
consultation.
motion to move it into executive?
We can add this as an item for executive under attorney consultation.
Okay. Any questions from the board, or what's required after
So
this?
if the board wants to table it, we can table it for now. Add it as an item for executive, kind of like we did last meeting.
Okay.
And then if we want to untable it when we come out of executive and take action after discussing any legal issues, we can do that.
Okay. So-
Now, just to be clear, the only thing we can discuss in closed are legal issues with the bids that we see. That's it, right?
Correct, or contract negotiation related
Okay.
issues where there's attorney consultation.
And what is marked confidential in our sheets, right?
It's
Well,
not-
technically, yeah, there's nothing under the Open Meetings Act that allows you to discuss, confidential information. I mean, you wouldn't want to discuss that openly because I believe some of them may be marked confidential. But, so you could discuss it generally. Maybe you can get into the details of some of the proprietary stuff or whatever that was submitted by the vendors that is marked confidential. But to discuss generally, maybe generally the services or factors that the board wants to consider generally as to who may be a better fit for BPUB, that'd be something you all could discuss technically in the open, right? As long as you don't get into the details of the confidential information that may be in there.
This is the intersection of the Public Information Act and the Open Meetings Act is what we're coming up against. So it's marked confidential because under the Public Information Act, somebody requests the information, and it was marked as confidential, it would not be released at this point in time until after an award has been made.
So
Okay.
can I just need a little bit more clarity. So if something, if a bank, for example, does not have vault access, we cannot say that out here. Like we don't, like I don't like this bank because it doesn't have vault access.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on what was marked confidential in the RFPs. I don't know if the RFPs I'm sorry, the submissions were in your packet completely, and which, if any, were marked, confidential or proprietary. To the extent that it is, you wouldn't want to discuss that in the open. But there's technically not a basis to go into executive session because of confidential information regarding this third-party vendors.
Okay, so.
And actually, I'll just say, with that in mind, I will vote against going into closed session, just letting everybody know ahead of time on this.
Okay, and, all right, with that information provided to the board, I don't have a problem entertaining a motion to move forward on a recommendation. Is there a motion?
I just want to state for the record that I have a conflict on this item, and I will have to abstain from any voting.
Noted.
Okay, the mayor has a conflict to abstain.
But can Mr. Perez go through his evaluation ratings, or no?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The evaluation ratings.
The rankings?
Evaluation rating stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see an issue with it. There was different weights given to different categories, right? And then the ranking committee ranked them. And obviously, the ranking sheet contains all of the ranking, how every vendor that submitted a bid, how they ranked, right? So I think discussing generally the ranking criteria, how the various entities ranked, and whether maybe there should be some different weight given to certain submissions, or whatever the case may be, the board is open to discuss that.
Do you have this? The chart?
Well, right, but, I mean, but nobody else can see this, only us?
Correct.
Okay.
They can request after the
This
meeting.
is confidential right here.
Right, but this is what I mean, the scores, the actual scores that he assigned to each one.
Yeah, so this is the same table with those scores, and it gives you all the different
Well,
categories.
right, but I understand why that's confidential, but
The evaluation rating,
the general one.
just for rating.
Well, that says confidential there.
I
Mr.
know, but
Vidal?
it doesn't make sense that it is based on what we are
Hold
hearing.
on, 1 minute, please, Mr. Vidal.
I have a question. Could you please clarify your motion, Mr. Chairman? I didn't hear it.
Well, I was going to entertain a motion to go and table the item, go into executive. If what I'm hearing is that may not be necessary, we can entertain a motion to make a recommendation for a depository. And I don't have a problem with it at this time. if
Okay.
There is a motion.
Are we going based on the recommendation of the evaluation? Or
This is a board-
What criteria are we gonna utilize? I mean, why take it to?
This is a board decision. It's a board's responsibility to take a look at all the options that we have and listen, of course, to administration. We're talking about a depository that's been in effect here for 25 years. I am for one that I'm a proponent for local, regional, state vendors working with us, but that's just me. Do we have a motion for depository?
I'll make a motion. While I take also very seriously that we, when possible, we want to work with, local agents as much as possible, just generally because the money stays in our communities. After having reviewed these ratings and also what it means for us to change right now based on the fraud protections that we're currently getting, I make a motion to adopt staff recommendation of Wells Fargo.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have Dr. Samoda makes a recommendation, second by Dr. Holman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I vote against. Motion passes.
Wh-
What do we have?
I was against.
We
I
have
was a nay.
That's a name, Mr. Varela, Mr. Nájera?
Mr. Riera is a nay.
Is your-
I'm an A.
You're a
I'm
nay?
a yay.
All right, where are we at with this vote?
Sorry, we should probably go one by one and poll, because I don't think I understood what the votes were.
Yes. Should we have more discussion before a motion?
Well, we've
Is-
already made a
is-
motion and taken a vote.
Well, it sounds like it tied. It sounds like it was 3-3.
Yeah, I think we should, I mean, I would recommend to discuss it a little bit further.
Let's
Okay.
keep going
All right,
then.
well, we don't,
Me,
Mr. Varela, Mr.
myself.
Nájera, Mr. Rendon,
And then
And the mayor's
Mayor
abstaining.
abstained, yeah, so no vote
Mr.
from
Martinez,
him.
what's your position?
Yay?
He's a yay. Okay, so we have a tie. What's our position? Is that the motion dies?
So, well, the motion fails, so if somebody else wants to make a motion, you know, whether it's to select another or to table the item, you know, obviously the staff has ranked according to certain criteria, right, and made a recommendation. If the board wants to examine that in further detail, you know, these are the ranking sheets, right? But, you know, all the ranking criteria, what was submitted from the different vendors, have a closer look at that. I mean, you could table it for further consideration and have it brought back next meeting.
Well, all right, so that motion dies. I'll make another motion. I'll make a motion that we move forward with Texas Regional Bank. That's my motion.
I would second that.
We have a second by Mr. Varela. All those in favor?
Wait, Can we
of-
discuss it? Can we ask questions about it?
Yes, you can, there's been a motion, but you can discuss before vote is called.
Okay. Yeah, okay, it's hard to ask questions, well, being general. But as far as fraud protections, like what would be the, like what would be the trade-off?
I'm sorry, you're asking about this particular bank that's
Yes.
been in, okay, so for Texas Regional Bank, the only fraud prevention service that wasn't made available was no account verification.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the electronic database where we enter this information and then the banks will let us know whether the payee and the account numbers all match. In this case, is there another method to verify this? Yes, there is. I mean, we would have to then manually contact that particular company based on information that we currently have in our financial management information system. We don't want to use contact information that was provided in the direct deposit authorization form. So that's just a little more time consuming on our part, or our staff's part, to do that, but we can definitely take care of that.
based on how many years we've been with Wells Fargo and moving to a regional bank, let's say, how hard is it going to be the implementation of this to the staff?
Oh, well, that's, any transition is gonna, it's gonna take time. I mean, it could be a full year before we get everybody converted over to the bank, right? So that's always a transition, but it happened back in 2000 when we went with Wells Fargo, so it's doable.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is that okay?
Yes.
So, Mike, on the payee positive pay, could you tell us which banks offer it and which banks don't offer it?
Okay, so Texas Regional Bank does offer it. Wells Fargo offers it. Texas National Bank does. Lone Star National Bank did not offer the payee positive pay. JP Morgan does, and Frost Bank does. So it was just the one bank that did not offer the payee positive pay. And that was Lone Star.
I think I would like to hear more from the person on the board who has a lot more experience in banking.
No. But it really, it's driven by, the customer, right? And y'all did a very good job in evaluating everything. And I think that, in my opinion, there's probably 3 banks on this list that deserve it, right? But you can only select one. They're all very good banks. and they're very, very close. I think that, that positive pay is an issue, right? Because, people can wash checks, wash the name of the payee, not change the date, not change anything else except for that. And so that is a pretty valuable service. And then, I think from a cost perspective, like all the banks were, except for a couple of them that really were waived. You know, they waived the charge at the end of the day. It's not going to be any additional cost to the utility in terms of hard service charges. I think Wells Fargo had a dollar amount there, but then again, you know, they have some other things that kind of offset, right? That, you know, they're a strong bank in consideration. I think it's more of trying to do business with a bank that at least has its headquarters in the Rio Grande Valley, right? I think that's kind of a thing. I also think that, you know, Wells Fargo's had the account for a long period of time, and if there's someone else that's just as good, that it's probably a good thing to kind of circulate it around. But the bids were, I thought, very competitive.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Rayad. Any other comments or questions?
Oh, you made a first, I made a second.
I made a motion, Mr. Rayad seconded, now we're looking for a.
Yeah, and then we were having a discussion, so that's kind of where we were
Right.
at now.
Discussion.
Is there anything else?
Nope.
Anything you want to add? No? Yeah, just for my understanding, which of these banks, because I'm not familiar with all of them, do they have their headquarters in the valley?
I can answer that, Mike.
Go ahead.
Okay, the Texas Regional, I believe, has their headquarters in Cameron County in Harlingen. Lone Star National Bank has their headquarters in Edinburgh, in the Rio Grande Valley, but in Hidalgo County. And Texas National Bank has their headquarters in Hidalgo County in the Rio Grande Valley. So you have three banks that have facilities here in Brownsville, that are investing in Brownsville, that employ people in Brownsville, as they all do. That's a very positive thing. Yeah. And you have three of them that have headquarters in the valley. Not necessarily in Brownsville, but in the valley.
Okay, yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
we answered that one. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments before we take a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
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 So let's count them. How many ayes we have? All those against?
Nay.
Dr. Holm is nay, so the motion passes 5-1 and one abstains. 4 to. What's the count?
Yes, I abstain. Thank you.
What's the vote on it?
We have 1 nay, 1 abstain, and the 4 yeas.
4 positive. Okay, the motion passes for the depository going to Texas Regional Bank. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, before we go into closed, recess in the closed session, let me read the following items. And at this time, the items of the agenda designated for closed meeting, I'm going to go ahead and read them, and then I'll ask for a motion. Meeting with the board legal counsel for advice about contemplated and pending court and administrative litigation, and on matters of which the duty of the attorney under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct conflicts with Chapter 551, Section 551.071, including but not limited to the following: reports of local and special counsel, including regarding pending litigation involving Brownsville PUB, updates on pending discussions with the City of Brownsville, including coordination issues for February 11th, 2025 joint meeting, updates on negotiations related to large-scale business development affecting service areas. Paul Gonzalez and Mr. Pequeño will talk about that. Presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchased power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel purchase, energy, and marketing charge, Section 551.086. Those are the items for closed. Do I have a motion to move into closed meeting?
Make a motion to move into closed.
Dr. Samora makes a motion.
I second that.
It's seconded by Mr. Nahan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
against? The motion passes. We're moving into Closed session, what time is it? 6:39. Are we still waiting? Dr. Samoda's putting a lot of pressure on me. Okay, we are, it is now 7:35. We are back from closed meeting.
Mr. Chair, just for the minutes and for the record, Dr. Holman, who was attending virtually, signed off at 6:57 PM, just so it can be noted for the minutes, and no action items from closed.
Okay, we have no action items, consideration and action on future agenda items. Any comments or any future agenda items from any board member? Okay, if not, I'm sorry, Dr. Samoda.
Maybe we can talk about the Resaca fee at our next monthly meeting.
Okay, Ms. Gilbert, will you please make a note of that? And one of the items I'd like to place on the agenda for future is the public, and I'm going to read this, the Public Utilities Board of Brownsville, as designated by the city charter and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, serves as a control authority for the city's wastewater system, ensuring compliance with state and federal regulations. This includes enforcing the EPA mandated pretreatment program to protect the collection system, prevent treatment plant violations, and comply with the Clean Water Act and general pretreatment regulations. The general manager is instructed to review the existing pretreatment program requirements to identify opportunities to improve compliance with its stated purpose while promoting the adoption of proven technologies and process. In March, the general manager will provide a staff briefing to the Facilities and Program Committee on potential improvements and recommended revisions of the existing ordinance. And let me just mention what this is about. We've been discussing and going over the fact that the PUB or the gatekeepers for businesses that require grease interceptors or grease traps. And now we need to really take a good look at the historical district, our historical district downtown. We need to take a look at the existing small businesses that sometimes want to open up a restaurant and are having problems complying with the current ordinance for a grease trap. And then we probably won't go over, but new commercial construction stands alone. But I believe in March, Ms. Gilbert, y'all have a good presentation for the board, for the public community to know and to understand. If nothing else, any comments on that? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Dr. Samoda makes a motion, second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. This meeting is now adjourned. It is